a hot mess. That's how women in workplace menopause study describe themselves. Not to their doctors, not in a formal setting. That's what they actually said. And I want to talk about why. Because what's happening in the brain is far more specific than that phrase suggests. Menopause brain fog scares many professional women. It's not just the missed word or the lost thread in a meeting. It's the split between what you're still able to do and how unstable your thinking starts to feel inside. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's changing in your brain, what's not, and how to handle it in real time at work. I will share 6 actions you can take to improve your menopause brain fog. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Jura Lasas. I'm a neuroscientist who also runs clinical operations at biopharma. I spend a lot of time translating complicated biology into language that actually helps real women living real lives. Imagine you're in a senior management meeting. You know exactly what you want to say. You start talking and you forget the word you wanted to use. For example, budget. You redirect, use something vague like money plan. Nobody notices. Or maybe they do, but everyone moves on. You don't. For the rest of that meeting, you're not fully paying attention to what's being discussed. You keep thinking, what just happened to me? That moment is more specific than most women realize. The first thing most people get wrong, brain fog is not a diagnosis. It's a label we slap onto a whole set of different cognitive experiences. And when researchers actually break it apart, 2 distinct patterns emerge. Think of your brain like a smartphone, not a broken one, a perfectly functional one. And it's doing a lot of things at the same time. Pattern 1 refers to retrieval. The file is saved, it's on your phone, you've used it before. But when you search for it, the loading wheelie thing just spins longer than it used to. So when you need a word in a meeting, it just doesn't load fast enough. Pattern 2 is about attention. This is about keeping your focus on something, like following a complex conversation, for example, the consequences of 2 companies merging, or holding a thread in your mind while someone interrupts. So you can come back to thinking about how your team will be impacted when those 2 companies merge while John from accounts receivable asks about an invoice. When researchers used everyday memory questionnaire in more than 400 women going through menopause, retrieval problems, pattern 1, were highest in perimenopause. Attention did not change nearly as much across menopausal stages. That means the story is not my brain is completely gone. Rather, it's the story about how to access difficulties. The spinning wheelie thing to the information you have in your brain, especially under pressure. And there's a neuroscience term for what happens in that senior management meeting we just talked about. Tip of the tongue state. It's an actual scientific term. You know the meaning of the word you're looking for. You could even describe it or you could draw it. What fails is phonological access, the sound pattern of the word. I also love this research finding. When you are being observed and evaluated, the tip of the tongue condition gets worse in all adults of all ages. Now, layer perimenopause with other symptoms you have on top. So now you're asking the brain to perform under 2 constraints at once that men don't have in that room. Most people go wrong when they assume it's the same every day. It's not. And the reason why is quite counterintuitive, even in menopause literature. So far, we covered 2 patterns of brain fog, retrieval and attention. The part that drives women truly crazy, how inconsistent it can be. Tuesday, you ran a flawless presentation on AI teammates. Wednesday, you couldn't remember the name of your direct report. That's where neurobiology gets very interesting. One study in 2023 measured estrogen levels in perimenopausal women every week and also tested their cognitive functions every 3 weeks. When a woman had higher estrogen, she also had better attention and fewer memory complaints. On lower estrogen days, spoken information was less likely to sink in the first time. Perimenopause is not a steady decline in estrogen. It's a wild, unpredictable ride. Your cognitive function rides that wave as well. You feel sharper when estrogen is up. You feel foggier when it's down. And there's no way to predict which day will be which. Now, here's the part that gets truly counterintuitive. The largest study on brain fog, done in over 14,000 women in 2026, quite recently, found that perimenopausal women reported significantly more brain fog, forgetfulness, and mental slowing compared to premenopausal women. But when tested objectively using scientific tools, their cognitive performance was barely different. In fact, perimenopausal women showed slightly higher accuracy than both pre- and postmenopausal groups. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment at work where you performed amazing, but internally you felt like you were barely keeping it together? Tell me in the comments. That contradiction of how you feel and how you perform is one of the most common and least understood parts of the brain fog experience. 3 things amplify brain fog you experience. Imagine a glass representing your brain's working capacity on any given day. Before perimenopause, that glass was maybe half full. What to have for dinner, bridal showers, buying a house, life stuff. There was plenty of room left for complex work. Now, hormonal changes have already filled it further before you even get to the office. The question is, how much room is left in the glass for actual thinking? Sleep is the clearest amplifier. In 2024 experimental study, researchers tested 2 conditions in premenopausal women. Their sleep was artificially broken to mimic menopause patterns, and their estrogen was lowered with medication. Broken sleep increased attention lapses and slowed reaction time. Lower estrogen did the same. Together, the effects added up. This finding is not surprising, but it's satisfying to see how science confirms what already feels true. Perimenopause often disrupts sleep by fragmenting it. You briefly wake up without even remembering it, which interrupts your deep and REM sleep. Both are needed to stabilize memory and reset attention. Think of good sleep as emptying the glass overnight. When sleep is fragmented, the glass doesn't fully drain. You start the next morning already partly full with less capacity for work or other people's stupidity even before anything else pours in. Our number 2 brain fog amplifier is anxiety, which often shows up at the same time as brain fog because the same hormonal changes affect both emotional regulation and cognitive systems. But anxiety also adds its own load. You turn attention inward towards monitoring worry, threat detection. Did they notice I paused? Am I losing it? That self-surveillance takes up a lot of cognitive space. Back to the glass. Hormonal fluctuations filled it partway. Poor sleep meant it didn't drain overnight. Now anxiety pours in on top. The worrying and the running commentary about whether you're still performing. So now the glass is almost full. So when your boss asks a complex question in a meeting, there's barely any room left for that actual thinking. The glass didn't get smaller. You didn't get less intelligent. There's just less room because everything else got in there first. And this is why a 2025 study found that higher mindfulness helped reduce both memory retrieval and attention difficulties during perimenopause. Mindfulness training doesn't make the glass bigger. It doesn't fix your estrogen, but it can help stop anxiety from pouring in so fast. You don't have to fix the hormones to free up cognitive space. You can lower what's already in that glass. Number 3, menopause brain fog amplifier is the work itself. The cognitive functions under the most pressure during perimenopause, such as rapid word retrieval, sustained attention, verbal fluency, tracking multiple threats at once, are exactly the functions professional roles rely on all day. A small change in speed or stability becomes visible because the margin for error is very low. You feel it as needing more effort to keep up in meetings, losing a word at the wrong moment, or struggling to hold several inputs in mind while responding. A role that used to require maybe 60% of your available capacity now requires 85%. You're still doing your job, but the glass is fuller and the tasks keep demanding room in it. If this is helping you make sense of what's going on, consider subscribing to the channel. I share one focus video each week grounded in peer-reviewed research, breaking down what's actually happening in your brain and body during perimenopause. A 2024 study surveyed over 1,300 women and found that 63.3% reported they were not feeling like themselves at least half the time. The researchers correlated individual symptoms with that feeling. Let me list them: fatigue, feeling overwhelmed, anxiety, difficulty concentrating, difficulty making decisions, forgetfulness. Have you noticed what's not on the list? Hot flashes, night sweats. These are the visible symptoms that we hear about. Workplace policies tend to focus on visible physical symptoms. However, the real career cost is in the invisible cognitive and psychological perimenopause or menopause symptoms. There are some actions you can take to help yourself. Earlier, I promised a list of practical actions you can take when the brain fog hits. Action 1 comes straight from the cognitive neuroscience. Separate what you know from accessing that information and use cognitive reframing to keep that distinction clear. So, if the issue is retrieval, like you can't find a word or a name, don't treat that moment as proof you've lost your edge. What's happening is access is a bit harder right now, not that the knowledge is gone. Under the hood, the connection between meaning and the word sound just isn't firing strongly enough in that moment. So the signal doesn't fully come through. So what you need to do is try catching the thought early and reframe it. Instead of saying, "What's wrong with me?" go with, "I know this. This is just not coming through right now." It sounds maybe too simple, but it's very practical. That one shift stops a small glitch from turning into a bigger story about decline and helps you stop spiraling down. The second action is straightforward. Protect your sleep. Sleep matters much more than most of us realize. Not just total hours, but continuous sleep. Broken sleep increases attention problems. If your night is fragmented, expect that your glass cognitive reserve is not empty in the morning. Third action is based on cognitive neuroscience. Lower unnecessary internal load. Anxiety and brain fog often show up together in perimenopause because hormone changes are putting pressure on both of your emotional system and your thinking system. Anxiety works like mental clutter. It takes up space in your brain, so there's less room left for focusing or finding words. Mindfulness is a simple way to train your attention. So when you notice the thought or the worry, but you don't automatically follow it, you let it pass and then bring your focus back to what you're doing. For example, you can focus on the sensation of breathing for a few minutes or use micro pauses. Take 30 to 90 seconds before a demanding task and just check in with what's going on in your head. Notice the thoughts or emotions and label them. Something simple like planning, worrying, or judging. Then gently bring your focus back to the task. These quick steps have been shown to help clear out mental noise so it doesn't compete with what you're trying to do, giving your working memory more space to actually focus. Action 4 focuses on tracking the pattern. If symptoms are variable, don't rely on your memory to track them. If you like, you could use an app or a journal. Note sleep quality, cycle irregularity if you still have them, workload intensity, and moments when retrieval or attention patterns spike. You might think your problems are random until you see a pattern on paper or on the screen, which will allow you to resolve them. Action 5. Stop using visible physical symptoms as your main reference point. If you've been minimizing your cognitive symptoms because they're less visible, you shouldn't. They deserve to be taken seriously. Concentration and memory matter more at work because they're the core of how you think, process, and get things done. So treat them like you would any other important signal. Plan around them. On days when your focus isn't great, reduce unnecessary multitasking. Use written prompts or notes in meetings and give yourself a few extra seconds before responding. Action 6. Use support tools without moralizing them. Written agendas, prompt notes, fewer parallel tabs open, these are not signs of your brain declining. They're actually signs of intelligent adaptation. The Gen Zs could learn from you. The goal is not to prove you can white-knuckle your way through everything at any cost. The goal is to protect performance without burning through unnecessary cognitive fuel. The most important thing I want you to take from this video is menopause brain fog at work is not a story of lost intelligence or your competence or your performance. It's about having the same ability but not always being able to access it as easily or as consistently as before. Once you believe you're losing your brain, every bad moment becomes evidence. It's like self-prophecy. Every missing word feels catastrophic. Every pause in a meeting feels like a failure. The more accurate story you should be telling yourself is that you still got it. Your brain is functioning just fine. You're still killing it at work. All you need to do is watch that glass. Don't pour too much into it. There's so much already. For about 80% of women, cognitive function returns to where it started after menopause. Neuroimaging studies show a loss of gray matter volume. Neurons make up your gray matter in the brain during perimenopause, especially in the hippocampus and other surrounding regions that handle memory. But in postmenopause, that volume partially recovers, and we also see the same brain parts seem to adapt to a different hormonal environment. Our brain is reorganizing and not breaking down. By the way, it's not the first time that your brain reorganized or lost volume. It happened when we were teenagers as well. I like to think of perimenopause brain reorganization as further brain refinement. We discuss a lot of things, but in the larger context of your life, the brain fog at work is not just about cognition. It is about your identity as well. If your career has been built on being sharp, fast, articulate, dependable, then even a subtle change can feel existential. I can personally relate to that as well. I always derive pride in being one of the sharper pencils in the box. But we have to accept that our biology is changing and work with that. The great part is that our intelligence and capabilities haven't changed. Our careers are not over. We just need to protect how much we add to our glass. That's an opportunity as well. Learning new skills of taking care of ourselves and our cognitive load. If this is helpful, subscribe and check out the other videos. I share one clear science-based topic each week. See you next week.